So I'm recording this one today on October 20th. I only point that out that I'm recording it because of the first thing I'm going to tell you about. Today I was listening to Rush Limbaugh, and and during the broadcast, a couple of times, he played a recording. I'm not sure. I can't remember where he got it, but you'd be able to find it because it was played more than once. Of a woman talking about making a statement in under a minute. I'm going to take more than that, but in under a minute, she made a statement about why are people like her voting for Trump. It was a really interesting statement. It obviously impacted people. He got enough requests that he played it, I say, more than one time during the show. And I would definitely recommend you go find a recording of the show and listen to her statement. Um, but it made me want to give my version of it. Why are people voting for Trump? It's an interesting thing. If we go back to the 2016 election, I was working at a university at that time, and there was a lot of discussion going on inside. We were inside the College of Business, which for a conservative, the College of Business is a more welcoming place than most of the college campus. College campuses have become wildly liberal. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. They are the home of Marxism in America. But a significant number of people in a college of business are far more conservative. Significant number. 20% of the faculty of a college of business may be as conservative, which is far more than the rest of the campus. If you look at the campus statistics of the 3% of people on campus who are conservative, they're probably mostly in the college of business. And it's because of, I think, the basics of understanding the freedom of running a business is a conservative endeavor. Side note, why aren't more of the College of Business conservatives? The business community is wildly conservative, very widely conservative outside of the top ranks of Fortune 500 companies. Especially small business is very conservative. Why wouldn't a college of business be more conservative than that? Well, it's simple, because they're not business people. They're academics. They are college professors just like everybody else there. That's one of those things I learned while I was there, is most of them were not business people. Most of them were just college professors and academics. Most of them had never worked in business, and so their life drivers were those of college professors, not of the business world. But during that time period, I got roped into multiple discussions about what we think was going to happen. And going into the last election, because I was saying something different than everybody else, I can clearly remember what I was saying. And what I was saying is, I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised. Well, everything says Hillary's going to win. I said, I don't buy any of that. I'm sorry, you don't buy it. I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is I don't believe what they're saying. Why? Because they've missed why everybody would be voting for her. Because if we're all supposed to be voting for her, there should be an explanation of basic drivers of the country and the things that that matter to people and so forth. And they had missed many of those basic drivers. The other thing I realized was that the people who do polling and participate in polling don't respect the people who would vote for Trump. So because of that, they're massively underpolled. The reverse is true. The people who vote for Trump don't respect pollsters. So they lie to them all the time, especially when the outside world has made support of Trump so antithetical to life. It is socially much easier to say, no, I'm voting for the other. At that time it was Hillary, and now it's Biden. And so I think there are very few people who are voting for Biden who would lie to a pollster about it. And I think a large percentage of people who are voting for Trump would lie to a pollster about it. Let me jump to prediction first. What am I predicting for this election? For that election, I said I'm not going to be surprised. And so when Trump gets elected, it just stands out. I'm like, I'm not surprised. I just didn't believe anything that was being said. None of the, and it wasn't that I believed Trump would win or whatever. It wasn't that. It was that I didn't believe what we were being told. And so what lined up with that perfectly was the days after the election when Trump won and nobody could tell us why. That was the key. The fact that they couldn't tell us why Trump won told you they didn't understand the people. Do I think Trump will win this time? I have no idea. I honestly don't. But I can tell you, neither do they. I believe this is as close to a mystery as it was last time. I don't think they figured it out. They sure as hell don't respect the people who voted for him anymore. So because of that, how can they possibly get inside information about how those people are going to react? Because you can't get good information from people that you don't even value as human beings. That leads into why are people voting for him? I think it begins right there. And this woman said and it was brilliant what she said. I'm not saying I'm going to say it better. I'm just going to say it different. A piece of it is, the largest part of it is a reaction to liberals. The liberals of this world have decided that anybody who disagrees with them has no value as a human being. We are a lesser character. We're racist, we're homophobes, they regularly change the meaning of words to meet their agenda. So a Christian who believes a certain thing about homosexuality is a homophobe. No, phobias are fear. So if a Christian has a certain belief about homosexuality, then you're afraid of it? No, that's not what the word means. It doesn't mean that at all. But they're fascist. They're taking control of the language in a fascist way. That if you disagree with Kamala Harris, you're a racist. Why? Because she's not white. So that's the only reason. During 4 years of the Obama administration, anytime you were against anything he said, it was because you were racist. As though Republicans would have supported Obamacare, socialized medicine, if it came out of a white guy's mouth, or if it came out of Hillary's mouth. It's absurd. That is absurd. No, we have basic disagreements on a policy level, but Democrats don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with policy. They want to deal with personality. It is an attack. It's a personal attack constantly. And because of that, you get called names over and over and over and over again. You have disrespect. They call the center of the country flyover country. We're a basket of deplorables. We're this constant idea that we're just useless human beings. We're uneducated. We're stupid. We can't speak well. On and on and on. You start to have a reaction to that. By the way, I think Trump is a reaction because we get a lot of that abuse from both sides. Most of the Republican Party hasn't figured out why we voted for Trump either. If you go back and look, you'll recall that most Republicans were against Trump the first time around. The largest percent have jumped on board this time, but you can find all sorts of Republican governor comes out for Biden. No, well, that tells you everything right there. It tells you everything. A Republican governor who's going to come out for an avowed socialist, which is what he is. His policies are socialist. Okay? If that says you're not who you say you are. Okay? Most of us who voted for Trump for one of two things. Number one, we wanted him to screw with the system. We believed absolutely he was going to shake up the system in Washington, D.C. Why? Because we'd been let down by everybody. The left hates us, and the right hasn't been who they claim they are. They have been as likely to tax us as anybody else. They have been as likely to join with big business to regulate us as anybody else. They are as likely to become cronies of the system. They are as likely to go to Washington, D.C. and come home rich as any of the rest of them. So most of the Republicans, we'd like to get rid of them too. Okay? That party is not the party that most of us would have it be. And so I'm hoping they got the message too. But a big piece of sending Trump there was to shake them up. And they are definitely a more conservative place than they were 4 years ago. It has rattled their cage. And if you look at the people who have floated to the top of the Republican Party in the last 4 years, they are definitely understanding it. That a piece of it is, if you're going to attack us all the time as inhuman, we expect the people who are on our side to defend us, to fight back with something. We don't want to ever fight as dirty as the Democrats are. We are not going to be ends justify the means people, okay? We might read rules for radicals to see their playbook, which they live by, but I don't ever want my side taking on the rules for radicals as the way of doing it, okay? I don't want to see us decide that there is no morality in the play. Okay? But I do want somebody there who is not afraid to stand up to it. A large percentage of us who would consider ourselves conservative, consider ourselves individual liberty minded, live in a world where we constantly either have to hold our tongue or risk the acceptance of people around us if we're willing to say what we actually think. It was and is refreshing to have a president of the United States who seemingly doesn't give a rat's rear end what anybody thinks of what he says. Do I like everything he says? Hell no. I don't know anybody who likes everything he says, other than him, okay? What I am is perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with a guy who doesn't care any more what I think of how he talks than he thinks of anybody else. He is just going to be him. I trust that massively more than somebody who's going to say it the way everybody wants it said. We live in a world today where people are, God, they're apologizing all the damn time. The number of people who say exactly what they think and then turn around and apologize for it. It just drives me nuts, because what it says is they're so beat down by the left, primarily. They're so beat down that they're going to apologize for things they absolutely believed in. I'm sick of that, and I'm sick of following people who are doing that. I will stand very much behind people who are willing to not do that. Me deciding to do this and video what I think and video what I'm used to saying in a small group and putting it out in this way, I had to decide that I was willing to let you decide what the hell you think of what I say. And there are people who know me, and maybe people who will change opinion about me because they actually see me in this format or whatever. And you know what? If it's what they say, the only thing for evil that evil needs to triumph is good people to do nothing. I'm not claiming to be good people, but I am claiming that even though I'm one of the biggest loudmouths around, I've been too quiet in this situation. There have been too many times I've been unwilling to say something. I live a life that has less risk than most people. Okay, I'm not employed by somebody. I have my own business. I have a life in which I risk less than my wife does, who still works at a university, who has to keep her mouth shut when things get very political in her workplace, which happens all the time. But she holds one of those unacceptable opinions, conservative Christian opinions. So she has to sit quietly all the time. Somebody's got to stop doing that. So, yes, I'm voting for Trump. I think lots of people are voting for Trump. I think there's a reasonable chance even that Trump could win this. But I can tell you this, if he wins it, the left will still have no more clue why he's won it than they did last time. If he wins this, they are unable to actually comprehend in their head why we would possibly do that. And it's because they care about nothing. And since they care about nothing, they only care about these, they care about show over substance. They can't imagine why we would vote for somebody who's so bad at show. Everybody says he's a showman, but it's not. The current presidency isn't a show any of us would really watch. But he's been exactly what we wanted. What's he done? I've got a small audience here, and it's interesting. If my audience would ask me, what what matters in a president? What matters when you're picking a president? And I've said before, there's only one thing that matters. There's only one issue that I think we should choose a president on. Okay? What I've just said here today says there's more than one, but in this case, if you went, what's the one issue? And I say it's the Supreme Court. It's the one that lasts the longest. That's when I say a Republican governor who tells you to vote for Biden, that's not a Republican. It's not a Republican because the one thing a president can do that's going to last the longest amount of time, these people are handing that power to a socialist and suggesting you handle that power to a socialist. I can't imagine any conservative, even any Republican, and those are not the same thing, even any Republican, honest Republican, wanting Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to be picking a Supreme Court justice. That's absurd. And yet, if they follow the current trend, picking a Supreme Court justice will last 40 plus years. What? It makes no sense to me. What it says is that they dislike the person more than they care about what they actually do. And the amazing thing is, if you talk to me in 2016 about, people ask me, if Trump gets elected, what's he going to do? And people look at me because I prognosticate. I think I have an idea of where we were going. And I said, with Trump, I don't know. The only thing I could find from Trump's entire career that was consistent was Trump did shit that's good for Trump. Okay? So I suspected he would do things that were good for him. But I was really concerned. I mean, I was concerned about things like he was a Democrat not that long ago. He was pro-abortion not that long ago. So did I trust him? Did I trust he was going to give me conservative Supreme Court picks? No, I didn't trust him. I didn't trust Hillary. I knew what Hillary was going to do. I could absolutely trust she was going to do socialist, communist stuff. So I wasn't worried. It wasn't a difficult choice between those two, but I couldn't pick him on the basis that he was going to do exactly what I wanted. The amazing thing is he's been exactly the president we could have wanted. Other than tweeting, outside of that, I think he's going to go down in history as one of the best conservative presidents, certainly of my lifetime. It's, great president. I don't know. It's an interesting thing because he even did a bunch of things that most conservatives wouldn't have thought of as leading things for us to do. A lot of the stuff that he's done in justice reform and those sorts of things weren't maybe high on our agenda, but you know what? They're really smart things. He's picked things that are smart. I live in a state where marijuana is legal, and yet we have prisons full of people who are there for marijuana things, and he's been going, maybe we should let them out. If you've decided it isn't bad, maybe you can't keep people in prison for doing something that you've decided everyone can do. Okay, I'll buy into that. So he's even a leader in that sense of changing. Maybe he's changed my mind. I definitely like him better as a president this time around than I did last time. But the primary reason he stayed as our nominee, the reason he stayed at the top of it, is because the damn liberals out there hate him so much. That's just all there is to it. The way the liberals talk about him is the way the liberals talk about all of us, as though we're all the same, as though we're all evil, horrible, stupid, uneducated. And you know what? We're sick of it. So it'll be a surprise. It'll be interesting to see. It's not the end of the world either way. What we really need to get back to is a day and age where whoever is president and whoever wins doesn't matter so damn much, because this country wasn't founded for it to matter so much. But there's my belief about why tens of millions of people are going to vote for him. And you know what? If he loses, we're not all going away. We're all still going to be here. Tens of millions of us who will still think the same way the day after the election, no matter what happens.